We can go for it. I
Yeah.
can make it start.
Yeah.
Um,
So welcome everybody. So we have a Raza here, not our buildspace Raza, but Raza from Third Space, third web. Got buildspace and third web combined. Now we got third space. So yeah, so Raza is from Third Web, and many of you are probably familiar with Third Web through the that awesome like build your own DAO project, right? With the Third Web SDK. So yeah, Raza today is going to talk about using their Python SDK in with Third Web. Yeah, thank you, Raza, for showing up.
no, I appreciate Build Space for having me, and I really appreciate you reaching out. We were supposed to do this before, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it before. But I'm definitely happy to be here, and also, yeah, also in future times, if it's possible to be there, then that would be great. Just a little bit about myself. I'll do a short introduction. We also have Samina, by the way, in the group. So if you guys have questions or about Third Web or want to talk about Third Web, Samina is together with me part of the DevRel team. Um, I'm just gonna share my screen before I start. Let's see. Awesome. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can see it. Awesome.
Put you guys over here on the screen of mine. And then I just need to pull up the slides. I'm just gonna keep it like this. I think it's visible big enough. Is this big enough for you guys to see? Yeah,
Good on my
awesome.
end. Yeah.
Cool. So a short introduction of myself. I'm Raza. Heading out the DevRel team at thirdweb. Together with Samina, who's also a DevRel in my team. If you don't know what thirdweb is, or haven't heard about thirdweb, very short introduction. Our goal is to make it extremely easy for you to build Web3 apps or include Web3 features. I think that generally speaking, if you talk about like building smart contracts and building in Web3, there's sort of three parts to it. You build and write the solidity or the code for the smart contract itself. And then you've got frameworks that help you test and deploy. So there's Brownie, if you're familiar with Python, or Truffle, or a Hard Hat. And then actually, you need after you deploy the smart contract in itself doesn't do much. You need to trigger it, you need to interact with it. And then probably you've heard about libraries such as Web3.js or Web3.py that allow you to trigger a smart contract or use the functions inside a smart contract. And we started out particularly at the last end where or in the middle, I would say, where we have made it very easy for you to deploy the most common used smart contracts. So you can see them over here. We have like an NFT collection, which is the ERC 721 edition, which is the ERC 1155, the token, and a bunch of other ones that I will just like gloss over right now. But we've basically made it extremely easy for you guys to deploy these smart contracts directly on chain from your wallet, using either JavaScript, Python, or Golang. Now, this is pretty much huge. I remember when the founder approached me and said, "Hey, you can now do quote unquote everything with Python." That was a little bit unreal to me because most packages that you'll find out there actually provide you an API that allows you to connect with a server that or an already deployed smart contract. I cannot emphasize enough that with this SDK, everything that we're going to do in a bit is on chain, meaning you're not interacting with any server, you're not interacting with any third party. All the transactions are done from your wallet. By the way, when I'm talking, I'm seeing the screen in this way. Samina will help me with the chat. And every now and then will look like this to make sure that there's no question directed to me. So very quickly, we basically have SDKs, a framework for Web3 apps to be built. So this is a little bit of a framework where you can see you have your app logic, think about your framework such as React or Django, and then you can incorporate our SDKs that interact with contracts. So we have pre-written Solidity contracts that we deploy for you, and you can do that with our SDKs with Python and JavaScript. I'll show you that in a bit. And then everything lives on chain. Um, this is sort of a description. I'll make sure the deck's available later on as well. This is sort of a description of what we provide today. So NFT, marketplaces, packs, drops. splits tokens. I'm just gonna skip over and show you guys this slide because I think this shows you really what you can build. Membership clubs, you guys have already built a DAO. Some of you have already done that project. Marketplaces, community rewards, NFT drops, play to earn. This is all possible through our SDK. Now, we're actually expanding the developer flow. So, and after this, I promise we'll get into the code. As I explained, there are like the three rough parts to when it comes to creating and deploying the smart contract. You need to write the code, the deploying, actually testing and deploying, for which you need Brownie, Hardhat, or Truffle, and then interacting. We have actually already released a feature that will allow you to deploy your custom contract with third deploy, meaning we have a set of contracts. You saw them over here. Today, and I'll show you in a bit, you can use your Python SDK to deploy these smart contracts on chain. What currently, right now, as of today, we don't have the ERC 721A, for instance. Most of you know this from like the Azuki NFT. And thirdweb deploy, exactly. thirdweb is already live. thirdweb deploy allows you to upload that, or deploy that smart contract on chain with our server deploy. And what that gives you is immediately anyone in your team can use JavaScript or Python to interact with that contract. Meaning our whole SDK with all the functions, the automatic reading of the API, the ease of integration with React, all of those features you'll be able to receive um, by making use of third of deploy. And if we have time at the end, I will dive into that. I've been invited for the Python SDK, so um, I will dive into that part, and then but if I have time at the end, I will come back to the direct deploy. And by the way, and I totally do not mind to come back again. I'd love to do a session about direct deploy on how awesome that is. So I'm just gonna set up my environment for a bit. Some side notes: I had quite a bit of trouble today with Mumbai, so I had to create a personal RPC URL. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. We're gonna get to that. Okay, so I have an empty folder. The first thing I'm gonna actually do is set up create a virtual environment. So if you're familiar with developing in Python, you always want to create a virtual environment, um, and for all your dependencies. That's kind of the best way. It's best practice to develop in Python. So then I've created my virtual environment, and now I'm gonna activate it. Oops. Okay. And then the first thing I'm gonna do is pip install thirdweb SDK. This is going to install the thirdweb SDK. Um, and then we need one other package, which is for our environment variables. So we're actually going to use private keys, and I will not show them on screen, obviously. So in order to create transactions on the blockchain, most of you know you need to sign on these transactions. Basically your code needs to know, hey, your wallet authorized the creation of a smart contract, for instance, and that's done through the use of private keys. Generally speaking, use a .env file for it and create it in a bit. But I'm going to go off screen and fill in my private key, but I will show you where you can get the private key from. So I'm going to do touch.env and open my code editor. So over here, in the .env file, you can fill in your private key. So this, and then it will look something like this. You can get the private key. Go to your MetaMask, for instance. You go to account details and export private key. You will be prompted to fill in your password, and then you can fill in your private key. Never ever show your private key to anyone, because this is probably like number one reason, except for clicking on bad links, that people get their whole wallet swiped. You don't want to do that. So I'm gonna go off screen, and I'm just gonna fill in my private key, set it up over here. And then I'm gonna do my best to not show it, even though it's a burner wallet, to anyone, because that's how much I want to emphasize, and to never ever show your private key to anyone. So I'm gonna create a second file, and we're gonna start off with an ERC20 token, ERC20 contract. So let's call it my token contract.py. open it, and I'm gonna close this one. Cool. So over here, you can see the .env file. I filled in my private key here. And over here, we're going to start writing our Python code. And I forgot to install one more dependency, which is for our environment variable. There's a library called python.env. And this will basically allow us to make use inside of code, inside of our code. It will basically grab the private key from the .env file. The first thing that we're going to do is import thirdweb. Oops. SDK. We're going to use ETH account to connect to our wallet. By the way, if this goes a little bit too fast right now, don't worry. Like we're just importing all the dependencies right now, and then later on, you'll see how we use them exactly inside our code. So here, this is for our environment variable. Part of the thirdweb SDK makes use of the web3.py library. By the way, we've not separately pip installed this one. That's because when you pip install thirdweb SDK, it takes care of every dependency that we're going to make use of. And then depending on what we're going to do, we might need this as well. Import it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to load our environment variable. And the way we do that is load.env. Then we want to grab our private key. Always and we grab it from the environment. And then we basically tell look for the variable private key. All right, cool. So this will grab our private key, and we're going to use it in a bit to instantiate a connection to our wallet. Now we need to tell basically we need to tell right now to our code what blockchain we want to connect to, and I'm going to do everything on the Mumbai network, which is the test network of Polygon. Sorry, I just need to mute my Discord. Oh, that will keep. Yep. And I had to create a dedicated RPC URL for this with what's it called, with Alchemy, because for some reason I kept having troubles connecting with the public one, and I'll show you guys what I mean in a bit. So an RPC URL stands for remote procedure call. It's basically an API call to the chain. And we need to pass a URL. Just gonna close this in a bit. So yeah, you pass an RPC URL. There's a public one that I actually always use, but today I was testing everything and it was failing me, and this is what it looks like. Maybe you guys can use it later on. This is what the normal RPC URL looks like. I'm using this one. Basically, every node provider or most node providers have a free account you can sign up for, and they give you a dedicated RPC URL. So Alchemy is one of them. I signed up for them, and then it basically you can sign up with Google, and then it gives you a separate link. So go here, view key. This is not recommended to normally show, but I go ahead, copy here, and it gives me a URL that allows me to connect to a dedicated RPC URL, and that's this one over here. All right, and then right now what we're going to do is define a provider. A provider is your connection to the blockchain. So here is where we're going to establish the connection to the blockchain, and for that we're going to make use of the Web3 library. And there's a method. It's called the HTTP provider, and we're going to pass our RPC URL. So this, in essence, is our connection to the blockchain. And in this case, we're connected to Mumbai. Cool. So whenever you instantiate the SDK of thirdweb, you need actually two things: a provider, connection to the blockchain, and the signer, which basically represents the connection to your wallet. Now we've already loaded our private keys. Now we just need to instantiate our signer. So we go ahead, say signer, and here's where we use account from key. Then we need to refer to our private key, boom, connection to the blockchain, connection to the wallet. All right, now we get to instantiate our SDK, thirdweb SDK, and we pass the provider and we pass the signer. That's it. Now, if you go ahead and type SDK dot, here you see all the things that we get to do. So we're gonna head out and we're gonna start with deploying the smart contract. So for that, we need the deployer method dot again, and this shows all the smart contracts that we basically are able to deploy. So we want a token. Very quickly, what I will show you actually, which is I think helpful, go to turtle.com and then you go to portal. Over here to the left, if you just click on NFT tokens or drops, here you can see all our contracts. And this gives you in a nutshell description of these contracts. So if you're wondering, if I just remove this, and that dot is saying, hey, what is an addition? You can go ahead. So if it's an addition, go ahead, click here on addition, and then in a nutshell, we'll tell you what it is. So an addition contract is in basically an ERC 1155. So if you're wondering what each of these contracts do, you can do that. You can also go here on the bottom left, developer reference. Today we're using Python, but if you go to TypeScript, it's the same thing. Deploy contracts. It shows you basically all our methods and what's basically used to pass as a reference. Actually, I should show you guys the Python one. So here, and then you can see how to use these methods. So I think these are good resources to check. So we want to do the deploy token, and then whoops. And in order to deploy the token, we need the token contract metadata. So for that, what we do is we need to import that from thirdweb types. This might be a bit tedious, but this is basically to provide metadata to our when we create the token contract. So contract metadata, and I'll show you in a bit why we need to do this. So we're gonna keep it very simple. If I say token contract metadata, we want to give our contract a name. So we name contract. This would be buildspace Python contract. And over here we would say name is name contract. So what we did is this helps us with passing some data to this method, such as a name, a description. It might be royalty. If you want the primary sales recipient to be different, so the primary sales recipient is the main wallet. You can pass all this kind of data. I'm gonna keep it simple here and then show you guys what that looks like in the dashboard. So our actual deployed contract. Just to go through all of this again. We grab the private keys, made a connection to the blockchain through our provider by passing an RPC URL, made a connection to our wallet, instantiated our SDK, and deployed the smart contract. That's what we're going to do now. If you know anything about deploying smart contracts, that won't take you 24 lines and even less. It'll take you a lot more. Especially considering that right now I've not written a single line of Solidity. I'm just going to execute this side by side. I've not written a single line of Solidity. I'm getting an ERC20, which is audited, which basically works. It gets deployed from my wallet. So you'll see in a bit that I own the smart contract. And then, which is something which is very important as well. If tomorrow thirdweb wouldn't exist anymore, you can still interact with your contract with any other library out there, or even whether that's Solidity or Web3.py or Brownie. So if I just go to my dashboard over here, and then I need to go to my main account. Let me just switch, scroll all the way down, and then over here you can see the smart contract we just created is build space Python contract. So I want to say that's actually how easy it is to deploy smart contracts on chain with Python SDK. But let's do some fun stuff, such as mint a supply of tokens. I think that what we can do now is I'm just going to say this, and then we couldn't actually do that in a new file. So what we can do is touch and then build space token of pi. And then over here, the first thing I actually do is I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to copy and paste all of this because we can just reuse that. So we need to instantiate the SDK, connect the provider, all that stuff. We need to do that anyway. And once we've done that, we need to create a connection to our contract. So if I go token address SDK dot, and then we want to get our token contract, get token, and then in here we can pass the address of our token contract. So this represents our connection to the token, our smart contract. Now what we can do is, let me rename this because this doesn't make sense. Token address, more like this is my token contract. So now when I go token contract dot, here you can see all the methods that I'm able to call that's basically inside my smart contract. Now, if you know anything, and I'll show you in a bit what the code actually looks like when you use a library such as web3.py, which is also abstracted. This is actually, this single line takes care of 20 lines of code that you would actually need to write in another Python library. So let me just first do that and say, okay, we want to mint a supply. So here it says price, basically the amount of tokens I want to create. Let's create 1,000. I'm going to save this. I'm going to execute it. So this will can take a minute. And then I can show you guys. And I'll show you guys everything on the Mumbai Explorer as well. But as I said, it seemed congested today, so it might not show up immediately. So over here, and boom, it probably happened pretty quickly. But over here, you can see a total supply of 1,000 was created. Just gonna go ahead and quickly go to Mumbai Polygon Scan, and then search for our smart contract. All right, it says no matching entries yet, but it will. It just needs to load. And it is doing something, but we'll get back to that. So I can show you guys on chain as well. Cool. So now I've minted 1,000 tokens, but technically speaking, one line of code. Now, why do I say technically speaking one line of code? Let me show you guys how it looks like when you make use of, let's say, web3.py. And no disrespect to web3.py, it's an amazing library. I think it's very essential. But just to show you guys a couple of things that you need to do when you use another library. Now, you need to do standard things. You need to connect, you need to tell your code what blockchain you want to connect to. You need to instantiate the connection. Now, here, this is actually only one line of code. It might look like a lot, but you need to load the ABI. If you don't know what an ABI is, it's basically the manual of a smart contract. So all the methods, the type of data, the information that's in there that you can read and call, that's what's in an ABI. It stands for Application Binary Interface. And you need to load it so your code knows how to read the smart contract. Well, then you define a smart contract just like we did. In this case, this is a transaction, and we'll do that one in a bit as well, where you send from a wallet to another wallet some tokens. But now you need to also define the formatting. If you know anything about number formatting in on Ethereum or Polygon, it uses 18 decimals. So you actually need to make your number larger in order to pass it. So formatting is an issue. Technically speaking, everything that you're seeing over here, including this line over here, so that's about 16 lines, including that one, 17 lines. That's what you need to send tokens. Now, I'm just gonna comment this one out and show you guys. If I like the from address is automatically grabbed because we're connected with our wallet address, but we need a to address. So if I do a true address, and then smaller, and then this, and I can grab one of my other accounts and paste the address. So over here you see owned by you, which I just switched wallets in my dashboard. Owned by you is 0. Let's change that. So token contract, and then we go transfer. And then the two we want, who do we want to transfer to? Well, that's two address. And how many? Let's say 100. So now if I execute this code, this might take a while, but boom, it's done. So it's going to load over here. Just like this can sometimes take a while. Let's check our other account where it has gone out. It hasn't gone out. Oh, look, it has gone out. So owned by you. My original count is 900. I go to the other one. There you go, 100. So we've transferred 100 tokens from one wallet address to another. And let's just say we did that with one line of code over here. Over here, you can see that transaction basically took around 16, and including the formatting, 17 lines of code instead of, okay, oh, I have to be fair, like we're loading the .env for the private key as well, and we did it at the other side. So technically speaking, you would say it takes around 15 lines of code. And it's just a hassle, especially if you look at how you build a transaction. I mean, a one-liner, and then especially with if you know anything about formatting. So, I mean, I think this is one of the dopest things that I genuinely believe about thirdweb is the ease of building. So there's actually a lot more that I can show you about this, but I kind of want to dive into also how easy it is to mint an NFT. And just for I think we have time, so I'm gonna actually deploy the smart contract itself as well. I'm gonna actually duplicate this one, copy and paste. I'm just gonna rename this as let's call it my NFT contract. And then instead of deploying a token, we're going to deploy an NFT collection. And again, we need to pass, and it says over here what we need to pass, NFT collection contract metadata. So we need to import NFT collection contract metadata. And we're going to do that. And then again, for ease sake right now, we'll just pass a name contract, and we'll call this buildspace NFT Python contract. And the name is name contract. Save this. This should be running this. Just gonna double check if by now we can actually see our contract on the blockchain. And yeah, we can see. So here you can see the ERC20. It's all on chain. We mint it, we transfer. So over here you can see actually, transferred 100 tokens from which address to which address. No APIs, no third party. This is all you from your wallet directly on chain. Our contract, NFT contract is created. And by the way, I think that's a fun fact. Do you know why it's important to own your own smart contract? I'm probably like you guys, the level of IQ I think is pretty high in the buildspace community. But I'm just gonna say it anyway. I think that it's very important for people to understand why you need to own your smart contract, because owning your smart contract is like owning the house versus owning the furniture. If you create an NFT, you own the furniture, which is great. But if you don't own the house, someone can lock the front door, and then technically speaking, you own the NFT, but you can never access your assets. That's actually the same with smart contracts and NFTs. So it's very, very important that you own everything. And I think that, again, that's the power of this. Um, most use cases, I think 90% of the use cases out there you can do everything today with our SDK as it is. For the remaining 10%, like you want to customize contracts, today we have a solution which is third deploy. You can deploy your own smart contract and immediately have Python available as well, or JavaScript. But yeah, um, that's probably not going to be covered in this session, but I would love to come back and show you guys more on that as well. So I'm just gonna copy and then, or no, I should create a new one. Fetch, create NFT. Oops, create NFT.py. I know I should use snake case, but doing this quickly. Create NFT.py. And again, I'm just going to be lazy. Copy, paste this part, and then I'm gonna create a connection with my NFT contract, which is SDK dot get, and then the NFT collection. And usually you can do something like over here. I can copy it and then paste. And this is my address. Now we've got a connection to our smart contract. Now we can mint. And over here you can see that minting with an NFT takes slightly more metadata than a token obviously does, because you need to pass a name, a description, and you need to pass obviously an asset, a digital asset. Usually that's an image. It could be a music file, it could be a video. We provide support for all files. The first one that we're going to do is import. We don't need this anymore, so we go from thirdweb. Oops, thirdweb types out NFT. We import NFT metadata input. Let me double check. Yeah, we need to input. So then what we do over here now is we do NFT metadata input, and then we can do it from JSON, because we'll basically pass a JSON object. Depending on what you pass, I'm going to pass for the Pythonists under us, JSON obviously is a dictionary the way we understand it. So we can pass a name, which will be, let's say, buildspace live, and then we can pass a description. And meet it with Python. And finally, we need to pass an image. And in order to pass an image, we need to find it first. So let me do that. And we're just gonna open an image. So read out an image, and I'm gonna pass an absolute path. And I've already got it over here on the right. So I'm just gonna copy paste it. So I've got a local file. Sorry, I've got a local image, and I basically tell Python to open it like we're basically used to how to open an image. And it reads it, and it basically passes through the mint function the actual image, and this will be uploaded to IPFS. Maybe now is a good time to talk about IPFS. I'm just going to save this and then execute this command, and then I'll talk about IPFS. Okay, cool. Now, while this is busy, it's very important. Like a very important part is another thing of ease what we do. So when you mint an NFT, you can decide where the asset is stored. Essentially, what happens on the blockchain, and I'll show you that in a bit, I think most of you know this as well, is that on a blockchain, what's captured is a link towards the asset. If that link is rendered invalid, basically the NFT is rendered invalid. Meaning, if you have it stored locally on your computer, and then someone deletes that image, that NFT is basically useless. So in order to tackle that, I'm not sure who developed it, but IPFS has developed. It's a system, interplanetary file system, and there are different IPFS providers. Pinata is one of them. Now, yeah, exactly. So exactly, Flatten. So what we do is we take that image, we store it on IPFS for you, and not only do we store it, we also pin it on IPFS for you. So if you're familiar with IPFS, what it basically is It's a network, decentral, but off-chain. And we can store an image or an asset over there. And what then happens is it creates a specific hash and sort of an encryption, you could say, and it stores on multiple nodes, not all nodes, but multiple nodes. Now, what happens is it's like a sea of data, a lot of data coming in and coming out. So you need to tell IPFS system, hey, this image, never delete it. Technically speaking, if you don't do that, in due time, your image or IPFS URI will be invalid because the system continuously updates and deletes non-pinned assets. So that's what's called pinning. Pinning means, hey, IPFS system, do not delete this asset, and that's what we do for you as well. So we don't only upload the image to you for you to IPFS, but we also pin it for you. So meaning it will not get deleted. Um, so now we can go over here, and I think it's minted. Yeah, cool. And you can see this is actually the NFT that's been minted just now. So this is the image, build space live. It's the name we gave it and the description. And if I open the image in a new tab, over here you can see the actual IPFS URI and the hash that I was talking about. So this is just a gateway. Don't think that we have actually stored it for you, that it's stored on our server or something. Whenever you access an image on an IPFS network, you need to sort of a gateway to it. And you can have public and private gateway, just like node providers. So this is basically just a way to access IPFS. It's not like a traditional URL link. I'm just curious. Hopefully, we can see this transaction also on chain. It's not been cool. It's already there. So here you can see our smart contract that we deployed on chain and our mint function, our NFT that we just minted. And over here you can see it was from my address. So that's this one, B764, B764, the contract we interact with, which ends with 2D. Over here you can see ends with 2D, 772D. So this is actually the the smart contract that we interact with. And then you can see a bunch of other data. Actually, I was hoping I could check out from da 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 da. I want to go to the token ID itself because I kind of want to. It's very slow to load on my end. Here, go to. I hope this opens up, and then I kind of want to show you guys the IPFS URI. I'm not sure if it's gonna be very slow. I kind of want to leave the last 15 minutes for open questions as well. We didn't get to the Django part. Um, and what do you think? Should we go to questions or shall I wrap it up?
Honestly, I think this is awesome. I think we could just head back to there's a giant table in the back, and we can just have people ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
thought that was awesome. Go ahead and like punching F, like you can throw confetti. Because it claps. I love the clap.
thank you.
This, wow, the clap keeps going on. Okay, guys, pipe down. This is why I wanted you here because, like, Raza actually also has a YouTube channel, and he has a lot of stuff, not just Web3 stuff on Python. And yeah, when I was looking through your thirdweb SDK, and then when I saw Python on there, I was like, oh, let me just look at this. And kind of my main takeaway, kind of like summarize the main takeaway is that with thirdweb SDK, you can interact with any contract, right? Like you can
Yeah,
pick any contract and then interact with a Python SDK thirdweb has built. Like to me, as a person who's like more familiar with Python, like that's amazing. And also, like when I actually watched a few of your videos, and I was like,
mhm.
holy shit! Like one line done, one line done. I was like, that's amazing. Yeah, but
Yeah,
if you guys want, let's go back to the big table and just like have a quick round table discussion.
yeah. Let's do it.
Cool. Let's just wait for a minute for people to get here. Yeah. Hey, if you're here, like you want to ask a question, just turn off your mic and just go ahead and ask one. I'll start out with one because I saw that Chief McConnell asked us. He asked, what are some of the other storage options we would have with the SDK? Is it just wide open right now?
So two things. If you just pass an image as an object, we store it on IPFS on Pinata for you. That's a IPFS provider, and but you could also pass a custom URI. So if you store it on RV, for instance, I think RV is another one that has an IPFS storage. So you manually upload it, and then you get the IPFS URI. You can pass that where I pass the actual image as an object instead of an image as an object, a piece of text with the URI link. So those
Nice.
are the two options.
Oh, nice. That's really cool, actually. Um, yeah, if you have a question, just go ahead and yeah, speak up.
Um, yeah, I had a quick question. Can you deploy a contract or like add a contract that's already deployed to like thirdweb?
Yes. This is where what I start talk about at the start that, and I don't mind coming back and then showing you guys how to do that like end to end again. So let's say the ERC 721 A, right? That's already deployed, it's out there. Let's say you want to redeploy that for yourself because we don't support it right now. What you would do is we've got a new part of our SDK that you can spin up. So it's like a repo that like maybe Brownie or Hardhat, like you do basically Brownie in it and it creates a repo, right? Like a boilerplate repo. That's the same thing that we have. There's a file where you can paste the .sol file, so the Solidity contract, and then you can basically with one command upload that smart contract or redeploy that smart contract, and then it instantly has connection to our SDK.
Gotcha. I guess I was more wondering, is there a way to attach one that's already deployed? Like say you deployed it with like another method and then attach
Right.
it to the thirdweb SDK, or that's not possible?
I will have to double check on that. On top of my head, I think it. No, before I say something that's not incorrect, but let me get back to that. If you hit me up on Twitter, um, or Discord, I'll get back to you on that. I
Sure.
would say yes because I've seen like what we can do. We're really going open. We want to own the process end to end. So whether it's already deployed out there or whether you want to customize your own contract, build it from scratch and deploy it, and then use our SDK as well. We want to support all of that. So
Yeah.
let me get back to that. But if you DM me, then I'll make sure I get back. Samina, yeah, the question was if a contract's already deployed, can we connect it to our SDK? Yeah, good question.
Thanks.
Feel free. I see if.
Guys,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
can I ask you if there's any idea when we can do like templates of those things, having like iterated solutions using all the contracts that we can have on the platform instead of like always having to create one by one. I can just have a plan, and this includes everything I want, and then yeah, is that something that we're there's some plans about it?
Could you explain your question a little bit more?
Basically, if you have any plans about creating like a template thing where you have all the solutions working together with the new components and just like creating, ready plans for whoever joins and they can, marketplaces of these plans. Is there something like this on the pipeline? Just wondering.
So when you talk about templates, we have a couple of things. I think the most broad template that we're going to have is the one I just described, which will actually be, again, a repo. And then any form of smart contract you want to deploy, you can paste it, and then it's just click, and it will deploy that smart contract. In terms of our contract that we already have, we have templates with React right now. I think only React and Next.js, but we're going to build it out. And basically what that does is if you clone that repo, it will have already a connect wallet button for you. It will have a connection to the SDK. You will just need to make sure that if you're using a backend solution, you pass your private keys, or um, if you have already contracts deployed, you can already, with the contracts that you already have deployed, interact with them with the
Yes,
third.
sorry,
Yeah,
all of that I saw, and I think it's super cool actually. My question is more like on the contract interaction between each other level. Like I have an NFT one, I have a marketplace, I have a token, I have a, all of those things, and I want to make them like a Lego situation, and we
right.
can keep on connecting all of those ends to each other. If there's a way for us to iterate on that instead of having to copy paste code base, that's basically what I'm trying to get. But
Right.
it's fine. Just wondering because I really like the solution.
Yeah, yeah. No, actually, okay. So you're really talking about on a smart contract level and interaction between smart contracts you already deployed.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine like a castle of solutions. Each solution is a contract, and it's doing its own thing, and they're working together. And then you can have like its own name for that structure, and then you
Yeah,
keep on iterating on those things. That's basically what I'm talking about.
yeah. Not a load balancer, but sort of like, so making sure that like everything at the back end is like more or less connecting to each other, and then at the front you're only talking to one piece. Is that the
Yeah, both works. I mean, we can have a off-chain solution, but I like the idea of having controller on the blockchain, and you can use this kind of stuff as a template that people can just create new ones and keep on iterating. And yeah, for me, it looks like a step forward in that sense.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I think that technically speaking, we could do it very, very easily. We don't have it right now because often what you see is either someone is looking like, most of the time what we're seeing in the use cases right now, someone's either looking for an ERC20 contract, or I think the two that go pair and pair often is the ERC 721 and a marketplace. So they do want both, but it actually makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure, Smina, if you got it, but I'm going to write it down. So to answer your question, right now, we don't have like a controller or anything like that. Okay, awesome, Smina. But sorry?
Just a thank you.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, yeah. Well, but I really, really appreciate the question because actually that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, we wrote it down and we'll bring it back to the team.
Any other questions? If you haven't done a build space project, you should definitely check out that one. One of the things that I really like about Third Web is actually the dashboard. Like the dashboard really helped me just keep track of all the addresses and just like quickly looking at, okay, what do I do? Um, yeah. Anybody here who's like really like Python, but feel like when you enter Web3, you're like, well, I need to go learn JavaScript and all of this. Like I was definitely the case. Just throw up like a wave. No, everybody's a Java. Oh, nice. See, yeah, like I knew it. Like, yeah, cool, cool.
I feel like they like most universities, I feel like start with teaching Python, so like it also makes a lot of sense because like for a lot of people that's like the one of the first languages they learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Raza, for your NFT, did you draw that with Turtle Graphics?
Yeah, I did. That's the only thing on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I saw all of that on your Twitter, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna get back into Turtle Graphics.
Yeah, let's go. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I think that definitely there's some super cool developments going on in the Python space. We're trying to make sure that we own the back end and the Web3 part. Now that you have Django and in front end PyScript, which is obviously in terms of performance not great, but what you're seeing in front end PyScript showing up, I think the if you use Viper, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Viper, end to end, you can actually do pretty much everything with Python. So I think it's super exciting time, and we're trying to help the Python ecosystem along. So if any like along the way, like Nikita, that feeling you waved your hand, that was exactly me. It's actually the main reason why I joined ThirdWeb is when the founder approached me and said, "You can now do everything with Python," and I was like, "No," and I just played around with it. We just played around with it, and I just played around with it, and I was like, "Shit." So I was super happy when finally Python was being represented more and more. So if you guys yeah, I'm totally down. So I didn't get to it, but I'm totally down to come again and then show you guys how to integrate with Django, spin up your own marketplace, bring your own, like not bring your own contract, but ThirdWeb deploy. So you can develop your own smart contract and deploy it with ThirdWeb and with Python. Happy to show that.
Yeah, we would love to have you back. I thought this session was awesome. Yeah, quick remark on Django. Like that was actually something like I was like, well, do I want to go learn Django because everything is seems to be like people do things with React. But now it's like, well, in Web3, like if you just deploy a contract, it doesn't really matter, like because people will be interacting with that particular piece you deployed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any sorry, go ahead.
No, all I wanted to add that is that it makes sense. Like a lot of people might opt immediately for React. I think the one thing I would like to say is there is a lot of websites don't need state management like as advanced as React does. That's one. The second thing,
Yeah.
there is still a place for React in the front end with Django. So it's not uncommon to have a stack with Django at the back end, React at the front end. But
Mhm.
again, I think that there are enough use cases, especially with PyScript coming up, to just use Python back to back. And I would like to remind them, people, anyone who's not familiar with Django, I mean, you are, Endo, but Django's batteries included. I mean, security is taken care of, security key management is taken care of. So it's really an all-in solution. It's a great way to scale fast, I would say, deploy fast.
Yeah. Well, I think the hour is almost up. If there's any last questions, but other than that, like, thank you, Raza. Thank you, Samina. Like, this is actually really awesome. Like, this makes me want to like start digging into more of the third web SDK. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome.
yeah, like, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're welcome. I really appreciated you guys having us. The energy was real, and yeah, again, would love to come again and then show you guys how to do stuff with Django or bring your own contract.
Yeah, we'll definitely connect on that. So yeah, thank you again. And those of you who want to stay, I still have this space booked. Like there's some collab tables. The weekend crew can stay to discuss. Like we're going to discuss some things about treasury. If you're interested in a weekend crew, you can totally like pop in on this meeting as well. Yeah, thank you, Raza. Thank you, Samina. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm gonna sign off. Take care, guys. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye.
I'm just gonna